Hello and welcome to the Retro Gamer Show.
And coming up on today's show, I visited one of the most loved retro gaming events of the year, Play Expo Blackpool.
We tell you what retro gaming events are on this month in What's On.
And we've even got enough time for another Games Chart flashback. Stick with us to find out what system and what year.
So as you may know, recently one of the retro gaming events of the year recently took place in Blackpool. That was Play Expo Blackpool. Now the plan was that we were both going to go along and have a great time, but unfortunately I fell ill and wasn't able to go. But James still put his best foot forward and went up to Blackpool, and I think you had a great time, didn't you, James?
It was amazing. Absolutely fantastic weekend. I got in touch with our mate Retros Out Vortex, and he came along and was cameraman for the weekend. I had such a great time. The Friday night there was a great meet-up with loads of friends from YouTube. We met up and had some beers, and then it was full on a full day of the show on the Saturday and the Sunday. But don't take our word for it, it was amazing. Check this out.
It was a hugely successful launch as well. It was, by that point, it was record-breaking.
Yeah, for a long time. I think it was until the Wii, it was the most successful launch that had happened. And the only reason for that is because Sony didn't make enough PS2s. And pretty much, no, seriously, like the consoles after it, there just wasn't enough units. With Wii, there was, and then it surpassed it. But yeah, for a few years, the Dreamcast had the most successful launch, and then sadly fell after that.
Because we've shown some teasers, and they've all been a bit sort of wacky and out there. I can assure you that there is games content in the show. It's a proper show about video games. It's not all kind of people sniffing Sonic Dreams and Reggie. For those of you who've seen that, we actually do talk about video games, and we talk about them properly.
Wow, so that looked like a really good event there that I unfortunately missed out on. It looked very similar to Play Expo London, the event that we went to back in the summer. So how did the two compare?
Well, we both love Play Expo London, but this was far better. So much room, so many arcades, food, drink, loads of rare consoles, loads of exciting panels, and best of all, loads of pinball machines, more pinball than you're ever going to get anywhere.
So loads to do then, and a really good event. And did you sort of bump into any retro gaming celebrities while you were there?
And it's funny you say that. Ex-Commodore UK boss David Pleasance was there. We met him in
Revival back in the summer, wasn't it? We met him, and he was telling us then that he's got a book coming out.
He has, and here's David now to tell you all about it.
Yes, hello everybody. I'm very pleased to be able to show you the book now. It's here in the flesh, as they say. Also got the Blu-ray, which is a very interesting Blu-ray. They're both available now. If you want to buy them, go onto my website, which is dantimepublishing.com, and they're available to buy. You can use PayPal or credit card, whatever you wish. The book is £30, the Blu-ray is £20, and I can tell you there is a lot in the book. It's a very substantial book, 368 pages, with immense contributions, chapters from people like R.J. Michael, from Dave Haney, from Beth Richards. She's the chief engineer producing the CD1200, which sadly never got released. And Gail Wellington, who is a software lady with Commodore. A lot of very interesting stories in there, and I'm sure you'll love it.
So that was David Pleasance there talking about his book, which he seems really excited about, and it looks really good. Did you pick yourself up a copy?
I sure did, and here it is. And David is super proud of this, and so he should be. It is a very, very high quality book. I haven't started it yet, unfortunately, but I am going to be very, very soon. He's really proud of the cover. It's kind of a view into Commodore, which is what the story's all about. Also, the Blu-ray, I picked that up too, because there's some interviews on here that I can't wait to check out.
Yeah, I think by the time you finish this, you'll be all Commodored out. And yeah, it looks really good, so well done on putting this together, David. So at these events, one of the things we always like to check out are the indie game developers. It's always nice to see what they're up to and what they're bringing out. So was there any indie game developers there, James?
Certainly was. The legend that is Jeff Minter was there from Llamasoft.
Oh yeah, so I remember Jeff from back in my Commodore 64 days, playing Attack of the Mutant Camels and games like that he brought out. So what's Jeff up to these days then, James?
Jeff had some great games on display, and they were all based in PlayStation VR.
Ah, so he's into his VR stuff now then, is he? That's, so he was cutting edge when he was doing his Commodore 64 games, and funny that he's sort of still cutting edge today with PlayStation VR. So it's good to see that Jeff's still going and was there with his games.
Yeah, it was great to meet Jeff. He's got some really exciting games coming out, as you've just seen. One of the other indie developers that caught our eye was a guy called Barry Skellern from Phantom Aspect Games, and he's got a brand new game coming out called Thrunt XL, and here's Barry now to tell you about it.
So hello, I'm Barry Skellern from Phantom Aspect Games. This is Thrunt XL, which is a super tricky time attack thrust 'em up. So if you remember Thrust or Grav 2 or Gravitar, any of these kind of physics-based asteroids-like games from the 80s, this is kind of a modernisation of that. It's more of an emphasis on speed and agility, so more of a racing game. People say it's very difficult. I'm not sure that it is, so I'm here at Play Expo Blackpool hoping to find out whether people really find it as hard as they say they do. It's been in development for close to a year now, but so it's coming on well, I think, and it should be hitting Steam sometime in the summer next year. There was an earlier version of this on Unity, on Itch, sorry, as well, which is like a black and white rubbish version that this is the sequel to, hence the XL. And that was way too hard, but I played it so much. There's videos on YouTube of me like doing ridiculous speed runs through it that no one can get anywhere close to. So the target times for this, yeah, people tend to think they're impossible, but they are doable. So this is, as I say, it's my first show, so I'm intrigued to see whether people find it as impossible as they say. It's the first time a significant number of people are going to play it in public, so yeah, that's tricky. So if it's not hard enough like this, you can go into dark mode where you get a headlight. So yeah, as I say, the game will be hopefully out next summer, and should have probably 20 levels or so, depending on how things go. The Steam page is up now, so feel free to wishlist it. It was up as of this morning, so.
So then, James, let's hear some of your other highlights of the events. And from what I hear, the Friday Tubers meetup was good. So let's hear a little bit about that.
Yeah, it certainly was. Now, at these events, the Tubers, you guys meet up in the bar the night before, the Friday night, and everyone basically gets on it. Super drunk. Start off, because everyone lives in different places, people are arriving at different times, and there were a good few people that were turning up with bags of trade fodder, and these were bags of games that they just obviously didn't want anymore, and they were happy to sell for super cheap prices. I got a couple of games at a brilliant price, and people basically just put their games out. Stuart put his out on a hockey game, and people just basically delved into the bag, and there was deals willy-nilly. Some great prices were had on some good games. And Pete, on a retro tip, he brought a box of free games. Yes, you heard it, free games. A lot of PS2 and all sorts of stuff. And he was basically just telling people, you guys just help yourself, take what you want.
So it's basically a bit of an unofficial meet and greet piss up the night before then.
It certainly was, in a nice little bar at the Norbreck. People kind of sort of split up into groups and stuff, but everyone really had a good time and probably drank far too much beer because there were a lot of sore heads on the Saturday. Now, moving on to the Saturday, one of the highlights that day was the arcades, and everyone that went got a chance to play some of their arcade favourites. There were some really top quality classic machines there. Outrun, Sit Down, Sega Rally. I mean, you know about me and Sega driving machines, I love them, but I had a good go on that. Point Blank was there. I had a blast playing Novabug on that, and he's actually very good, despite what people say. I'm joking, he is good. And that was a lot of fun. There was Time Pilot. Pete, on a retro tip, did a really good high score on that, despite being a bit drunk, but I think that helped because he did a really good high score.
So I guess, like I say, with the arcades, it's great to get there when you've got a room of arcades like that and get and play them, because you just don't see the arcade games of yesterday today so much, do you?
You certainly don't, and there was so much choice. Something else I really enjoyed at the event were the panels, and they were very good. One of the panels I first went to was about the Digitizer show, which we've talked about before on the Retro Gamer show. That's coming out very soon. The guys and girls from the show were there to talk all about it to the audience. One of the other big features of the weekend was the celebration of the Dreamcast 25th anniversary, and there was a very special panel featuring Slope's Game Room, loads of guys from the Dreamcast Junkyard, as well as Adam Korolik, who talked about the very rare Dreamcast Divers TV.
The idea behind it was that they were like, all right, we're going to release these, and the idea is people will buy tons of them and put them all over their homes because it came with the camera, it came with a keyboard, it came with, of course, itself as a TV and a Dreamcast, has a built-in modem, and the idea was that you would place them all over your house and you would have, it was essentially like a physical edition of Skype that was supposed to be in your house that, of course, everyone in Japan was going to have. Well, that doesn't work if you only make 200 of the things for the whole country. But the idea is that there was something to that. They were thinking this was going to be like a big networking device. So I invite you to go take a look at that thing because you'll probably never see one again because it's such a weird oddity in the Dreamcast library.
And that was a very rare piece of equipment. As Adam said, the Divers TV, believed to be only 200 ever made, and it was great to see that. A lot of the other rare consoles that you've seen were all owned by Zobi Tex Kwang, and he was happy enough to let people play on them all day long.
So the rare consoles that were there were actually from his own personal collection?
Yeah, he brought them for people to play, and they had the boxes out and everything. Everyone was very well respectful, and he kept a close eye to make sure everything was safe.
I bet he did. Oh, amazing.
Something else I was really excited to see at this show was a guy called Sami Cetin. Now, he is a Mario Kart expert, and when I say expert, I mean pixel perfect driver. And here's some footage of Sami trying to beat the Mario Kart world record. As you could see, Sami is a Mario Kart expert, and he practiced his heart out all weekend. But the good news is, just before packing up on the Sunday evening, he beat his record. Very well done, Sami.
So I think that's more or less wraps up our coverage of this year's Play Expo Blackpool. I think, as you said, James, it's been a really good event.
Absolutely brilliant. I just want to say a big thank you and a big hello to everyone we met there, everyone that came over and said hello, and very well done to everyone involved, everyone at Replay Events. They put on an absolutely fantastic show. Thank you.
Now, if you're sat at home and you're thinking, I'd like to get myself along to one of these retro gaming events, then fear not, because we know of some that are going on this month. So here we are, we're going to tell you all about them now in this month's What's On.
So first up this month, it's the Derby's 80s Retro Arcade Weekender. This is being held on the 17th and the 18th of November at the Museum and Art Gallery, The Strand in Derby. They're promising classic arcade games, consoles, vintage computers, 80s music and even 80s films. For more information on this great sounding event, visit www.derbymuseums.org.
And up next, it's the Bristol Gaming Market. This is an event that we're going to be going to because it's right on our doorstep. If you see us there, please do come and say hello. For more information, visit bristolgamingmarket.com.
Next up, another event that we will be attending, and it's Revival Zapped 2018. And it's going to be celebrating Zap 64 magazine, which is going to be really cool. This is being held on the 24th and 25th of November at the Old Hall Community Centre in Walsall For more information on this event, visit www.revivalretroevents.co.uk.
And up next, on the 24th of November, there's ZAP, the retro gaming event. Now that's being held at the John Paul II Centre in Bicester on the 24th of November. It's a retro gaming event suitable for all ages. You can play over 40 retro consoles, there's computers, stacks of board games, and you can try your skills at the video game contest they're going to hold. Tickets are £5 per person on the door, and they're open all day from 10 in the morning till 8 in the evening. And for more information, visit them on their Facebook page.
And finally, an event that's on very early next month. This is on Sunday the 2nd of December. It's the video game market at the Doncaster Dome. If you want more information on this one, it's www.thevideogamemarket.co.uk. Don't forget, we'll put links to all these events in the video description.
Right, so there we go, that's what's on this month. A couple of events there that we will be going to, so if you see us there, make sure you come up and say hello.
And if you know of an event in your area that we haven't featured, do get in touch. But before we go, we've got a Games Chart flashback for you.
In this month's Games Chart flashback, we're taking you back to a time where if you went to the cinema, you may have watched Big Trouble in Little China, or maybe the musical fantasy film Labyrinth, or the sci-fi fantasy Critters. In football, a rather young looking Alex Ferguson was appointed Manchester United manager, and Berlin were number 1 in the UK singles chart with this.
And this month we're going to show some love to the ZX Spectrum with the chart from November 1986. At number 5, it's an old arcade classic, it's Dragon's Lair on the ZX Spectrum. A lot of people say this is actually far more playable and interactive than the arcade version. Unfortunately, I've never played this because I never had a ZX Spectrum.
In at 4, it was Mastertronic's Video Olympics, where you did a bit of running, a bit of long jumping, a little bit of javelin, even the hammer, a little bit of hurdling, and even a dip in the pool. Now this is no Daley Thompson's, and I've never played it, but I bet there's a whole lot of button bashing involved.
At number 3, it's another arcade home computer port. It's Ghosts and Goblins, released by Elite. Now this is a game I have played on a friend's ZX Spectrum back in the day, and I can tell you it's as hard as teaching a family member to drive.
In at number 2 was Dan Dare Pilot of the Future from Virgin Games. This game was also released on the Amstrad CPC and the Commodore 64 home computers, and it's based on the classic British comic strip, of course, of Dan Dare. Now I've never played this on the ZX Spectrum, but I have played it on the Commodore 64, where in that version Dan decides not to use his gun, but to use his boxing skills to deal with the train guards instead. Very bizarre.
And at number 1, in November 1986, it's Ace, also known as Air Combat Emulator. It's a flight simulating game where you, the pilot, have the role of defending an English coastline against an enemy invasion, having to fight off aerial, ground and naval forces. The game was very well received and it was loved by critics. They called it one of the best combat simulators of the time.
So there we go, the ZX Spectrum chart from way back in 1986, and That's about it now, unfortunately, for this month's show. We'll be back at the beginning of December with another Retro Gamer show as usual. And but if you commented on last month's show, you'll see your name going across the bottom of the screen right now. And don't forget to comment if there's something that you liked in the show and you want to talk to us about. Did you go to Play Expo Blackpool? Let us know your comments about that. But until next time, James, what they got to do?
Keep it retro, everyone.